Welcome to Picture the Professor, the sports betting show brought to you by a real statistics professor and his cousin Jared. We're here for week 8 of the college football season. Week 7 in the books already. Somehow we're about halfway through the season, and we're in the midst of just a very meh to season.
Yep.
A frustrating week last week. We had some green on there last week for the season numbers, and the A grades just really fell on their face for the first time all season. Worst week for them by far all season. And because I was thinking about this, we've yet to have that big everything clicks and goes right week that usually happens a few times a season. Maybe maybe we can will that into existence this week. What do you think?
I think where there's a will, there's a way. So I think that we can find a way to make it happen.
There you go. We'll recap here. Week 7, of course, some of the picks on average, that's forgettable depending on, how you're looking at it. But as we always like to do, the good, the bad, the ugly. Cousin Jared, what was good for you in week 7?
It's got to be Indiana, right? I mean, I felt like we were a little bit on an island taking the 7.5 points. I think a lot of people were saying, hey, Oregon maybe about a field goal better on a neutral field, put the game at home. That puts it closer to 7. College game day being there, atmosphere, just the traditions of the program. I felt like everybody was kind of on Oregon there. And the fact that, Indiana belonged in that game the entire time. And there was never a point in that game where it felt like Oregon was going to run away or, Indiana was lucky to still be in the game. And the fact that they were able to win by 10 points, like I know that it doesn't count as any extra of a win, winning by double digits, but still, like, going back on the record to just see Indiana beating Oregon on the road by double digits, says something about your program in my mind. So I think just an unbelievable win for Indiana. And I know this is my good, but also Kurt Cignetti just like resetting the bar for what every program expects. When you're coming in and you maybe have a lackluster football history, but with NIL, and if you've got the right donors and the right infrastructure, Indiana is going to be the team that everybody compares themselves to now.
Yeah, and we saw flashes of last year's Dante Moore a little bit. How much of that was, what we saw early in the season wasn't necessarily all, a new quarterback. How much of that was Indiana's defense? Sideline has their defense number 2 in the country right now.
Wow.
We've been high on Indiana. I don't know what else to say. We've been preaching that all season that they're a really good team, and not that Oregon isn't good. We had Oregon at number 5. It's just that, we had Indiana number 3. Now they're, of course, number 2. Indiana looks legit. Now, can they do it against Ohio State? I don't know, but doing it on the road at Oregon is as good as you can get. Because I'm thinking UCLA apparently is good now. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know what to make of this. After Penn State stubbing their toe, to say the least, against Northwestern, maybe that Penn State win doesn't look quite as convincing. But UCLA actually going in the right direction. So good for them. Bad on them for the hiring decision and getting rid of that staff obviously was the right call, but hiring them clearly the wrong call because it's just a night and day difference. And you're finally starting to see, I mentioned flashes of old Dante Moore. You're finally seeing flashes of old Nico, who's a 5-star quarterback for a reason.
Yeah.
And he's starting to look really good for UCLA. Because Jared, what was bad for you last week?
Oh man, what was bad? So I'm going a little off the radar here. I'm going to talk about Fresno State. And we laid the points with Fresno State 2 weeks ago, and they were up 20-0 at halftime. I think it's 20-0, 20-7, something like that. And actually, we had the over in that game, but point still stands. They had 20 points at halftime and did absolutely nothing in the second half. I think they beat Nevada like 20-17. Not a very convincing score. Again, scoreless in the second half. They come out against Colorado State, who was 1-4 coming into that game, and just got absolutely shellacked in the first quarter and a half of that one. And ultimately, Fresno State ended up losing that game by 28 points to Colorado State. I don't know what happened to Fresno State at the halftime of that Nevada game, but whatever it was needs to be undone very quickly
Mm.
because, the bottom of the Mountain West is there are wins to be had for sure. And Fresno State is doing everything in its power to try to avoid getting any of those should be easy wins. So I don't know what
Should be bowl eligibility should be easy, and yet they're
Yes.
like, are they going to make it hard?
Yes, exactly. And I mean, I'm telling you, it was like a light clicked. I mean, it's very rare that you can go back to a very specific point and be like, this was the point where from this point everything kind of went downhill. But man, it was halftime of that Nevada game. So I don't know what they said or did, but they need to do the opposite of that going forward because this Fresno State team has been zero fun for the past 6 quarters of game action.
Is it cheap if I say Penn State at this point? I don't want to, you know,
I mean,
continue to bang on that drum, but I mean, I
yeah,
don't know what's going on
yeah,
there.
yeah,
Aller now out for the season, of course. We
yeah.
will
God,
talk about that.
yeah. When it
We'll talk
rains,
about
it
Penn State.
pours. Yeah.
We'll talk about Penn State later on. I don't know if it'll be during the main show or the after show, but we do have a pick involving it in that game. I do know that. Because you're ugly. What was the ugliest thing you saw last week?
Okay, I'm gonna go off on a little bit of a tangent here, but I don't know if anybody has read some of the stuff being reported. I think it was both ESPN and Yahoo about potentially private equity coming into the Big Ten, and I think that there's a lot of layers to this, as you can imagine. But the additional money coming in, the athletes, rightfully so, finally making some money, which they should be making. This Everything is becoming much more transactional now, and I think you can see that by the number of coaches that are being let go in the middle of the season, as opposed to what you might have seen in previous seasons. And I just think that it could get to the point where there are some inexplicable things happening because some of these schools are just flush with cash for no really good rhyme or reason. Like one thing I've really been pressed for is, and trying to figure out is, why does the Big Ten need private equity? What are they
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
do
I
with
agree.
this extra money that they're going to be getting? And it's like, I guess buy out a coach for 47, 48, 49 million, like however much it is. So, it's not the Penn State situation specifically because talked about it last week. I think it's just best for both sides to move on at this point. And I'm kind of glad that, unlike Oklahoma State, drawing it out for no good reason, I'm glad
Yeah.
that Penn State made the decision they did on Sunday morning and say, hey, we're gonna.
Speaking of Mr. Franklin, Baylor would love to have you. We'd love to have you. Nice place to live, Waco.
Yeah,
If you're interested.
there will not be a lack of suitors for Mr.
No,
Franklin.
and LA did a better job than Baylor. I'm almost certain too.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, I just feel like we're going into this weird place where, there's money coming in. I don't know why the money's coming in, what the money's going to be used for. Everything's becoming more transactional. And I think it's just going to lead to more turnover, oddities, short leashes, everything else. And I just think that as everybody kind of figures that out until the more realistic contracts come in without these crazy buyouts, I think you're just going to see some weird, in my opinion, ugly stuff happen before things kind of regulate themselves.
I think it because Jared, you and I have never been hot take people. Very rarely will we ever give a hot take. We're not trying to get clicks and be outrageous or anything like that. Players being paid good
Yep.
for sure.
Yep.
Should they get more? I don't know. I'm not an economist. I haven't looked at it. That's I think one area this goes to is they get more money to pay more players more, but in a capitalist situation, which this would be, very quickly when you stop seeing returns on those investments, the money dries up.
Right.
And
Right.
that's where I'm wondering, kind of like you, like I haven't really heard a good explanation for why they need the money, because you need private equity when you say I need to invest more money in order to make the product better, and then we're going to get a return on that investment. I'm like, what are we going to see a return on this? Because there's only so much more I think you can pay the players. I don't think you're going to see dividends on that because the TV contracts aren't going up,
Right.
or they are, but marginally. It's not going to be all of a sudden you get all the best players, and now what? You've made a few extra million, but it's
Right.
not going to be to pay this off. So I'm curious. I don't quite get it either. I'm not really sure. Other than it's just a chance to get more money, but then it's like,
Yeah.
but then what? What's your
Yeah.
plan? Is
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
question there?
Well, and to the point of the players being paid, you said it. You get private equity to grow. If you need private equity to meet your payroll obligations, that's a poorly run business. So like, I
It
don't,
is.
I don't know. I don't know.
Because at this point, it's just, hey, let's throw more money at people to get a better product. But it's like, at some point, how much marginally better can it get? It's
Right.
not like
Right.
it's not like there's new technologies to invest in to make the players better. It's not like they need better facilities. I mean, all these
Yes.
facilities are
And
already incredible.
if you are an economist, number one, thank you for watching. Number two, leave
Yes.
a comment, here and explain to us how this makes sense, because I'm struggling with this.
Because Jared, I'll wrap up our week 7 recap here with the ugly. And I just got to talk about UTEP. Just starting off the night against a Liberty team that has been terrible
Mm.
on defense. UTEP decides to start the backup quarterback, gets a couple of first downs on his first drive. They have to punt. Next drive, 3 and out. Next drive, 3 and out. And they decide, no, let's go back to the starter, former 5-star recruit Malachi Nelson, who promptly goes 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. And then they're like, no, let's go back to the backup. I don't know what is going on there in UTEP. I thought they had at least enough promise to get out of the cellar of that conference and make some noise, maybe be one of those 6-win teams, because there's going to be some 6-win teams in that conference, because it's just a bunch of terrible teams.
Yep.
And I don't understand what was going on. I don't know how they did that little against that Liberty defense, but that was an ugly way to start our week, because there's Tuesday games this week. So hopefully our week starts off not quite as ugly. We will cover every game we have a pick on. We've got like over 30 picks here this week on either the full show
picks this week.
Either the full show or the main show here, or the after show. The after show available only if you are this week, only if you are a paid member of our Patreon. You can get in there for $5 a month. We really appreciate your support if you're there. How this works, you'll hear us talk about Sideline as a player-based model that I have built, and it reflects current rosters. And we've got grades on every player, grades on every offense, on every offensive unit, all sorts of stuff like that. That helps us figure out what we think will happen on average with regards to the spread and the total, and of course the probability a team wins. And that's what we're going to use in order to make our plays. One game is random, of course. We see weird things. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, but the model does win in the long run. Even though it's struggled so far this season, we continue to have faith that it will produce the results like we've seen in years past for us here, as long as we give it enough patience. Smart betting is not about locks, people. It's about price and value. And so that's why we always talk about making sure you get the best of the number. So we talk about sometimes run, don't walk, get this number now. Sometimes we say walk, don't run. No need to get it now. Let's see if it gets better. And we'll talk about key numbers to lock it in. So hopefully a lot of good insights you can gather here. Free trial available on Patreon. If you want to check that out, you can hear us talk about every other pick, all sorts of extra goodies over there on Patreon. All the picks, all the model insights, all the A-grade plays, baseball playoffs now, all sorts of goodies again for every game here of college football, and exclusive Discord chat with experts across every sport, including the NFL. Because we will also be showing a demo here, a sneak peek, a clip from our friend Jake's college basketball show, Bench Points, at the end. So stick around for the end of the show to see that they've got some season-long bets for college basketball that they are recommending. And so you can catch that here if you want to get some season-long college basketball bets in.
And if you think that we know the minutia of college football, wait till you hear these guys talk college basketball.
Yes, they really know what they're doing. They go deeper than we could ever imagine.
Yeah.
And again, just real quick here before we get started, if you are interested in learning how you profit long term, how do you protect your bankroll and grow it rather than having to constantly reload every payday, every couple of weeks like that, we want to avoid that. And that's what we do here at Picks the Professor. And again, you can learn more, get more, and join us over in our Discord chat and with all the extra great plays from the models that I have built over on Patreon. And that link is in the show description. Because Jared, we're going to start here with the noon spotlight game, the best game, the most interesting game, the one that you think we should be focusing our attention on. LSU at Vanderbilt, two of many teams in the SEC jumbled, according to Sideline's latest rankings, in the 7 to 15 or 7 to 16 or whatever range, where it's just the whole SEC basically, or half the SEC
Mm-hmm.
right there, all really close. LSU just on the outside of that, number 19. I think they're the 10th best SEC team according to Sideline at 19 overall in the country. Just insane scheduling every week, it seems like, in the SEC. And just Jared, I'm glad we're talking about LSU because I was actually looking at them when I was running the update here for Sideline this afternoon, and I thought, if you told me coming into the season with Garrett Nussmeier still healthy, still playing well, and LSU had the number 7 defense, I'd say they're easily top 10, probably top 5. And yet that offense at number 42, despite Nussmeier still being plenty good, is just downright confusing. I don't know what's going on in Baton Rouge with the offense. We've seen it all season from they just have really struggled. And they'll take on a Vanderbilt team who looking to get a bounce back game here after a bye week coming off of that Alabama game where Diego Pavia, one of the worst games of his career. See if he can get it back on track. Sideline says Vandy wins by an average of 3.5. We're going to like 2.5 here. This would also qualify as run, don't walk. Go ahead and lock this in. I'm really surprised this isn't 3. I figure people will look at this and say, well, slightly better at their home edge, probably not quite as big. There's probably going to be a lot of LSU fans making the drive up there to Nashville. So I'm not sure, a huge home edge here, but playing at home still helps more than not. Vanderbilt slightly better. I'm just surprised this isn't 3 or 3.5. So, because Jordan, we're going to take advantage of what we think is a little bit of a soft number here with the B grade on the Commodores. What's your thoughts?
Yeah. So, and to clarify, I've also seen 2.5. We're going to lay in a little bit of juice, like 2.5 minus 115. I have seen -3 minus 105. I'm perfectly fine with -3 minus 105 as well. I would play it at that number too. If you want to know how I feel about LSU, I don't like to toot my horn very often. And ironically, this isn't going to work out for me, but I went under 8.5 wins in our season long bets with LSU. And all of the reasons that not all the reasons, a majority of the reasons why I like them under 8.5 wins has still come to fruition. They were replacing people along the offensive line. I had questions about how much they were going to be able to protect Nussmeier. They had no running game whatsoever. That has not changed. South Carolina, they had LSU had first and goal at the 1 yard line late in that game, and South Carolina stopped them 3 straight times, made them kick a field goal there at the end of that game. The defense is improved 100%. The defense looks great, but when you're playing in the SEC, the number 42 offense just isn't going to cut it some weeks. And I think Vanderbilt, we've talked ad nauseum this season about how they're a little bit underrated by the market. And you mentioned that this was, the Alabama game was the worst game of Diego Pavia's career. I can't wait to see what his bounce back is like. I think that he's probably going to have, relative to what you could expect against this LSU defense, a pretty solid game. The other thing is like, okay, yeah, Vanderbilt lost by whatever it was, like 11, 12, 13, 14, whatever, against Alabama. How much better is Alabama's offense than LSU's offense? And Vanderbilt gets this game at home, which again may not mean much, but it's better than playing on the road at Bryant Denny. So, I just, I just still like Vanderbilt even after the loss to Alabama. I trust Pavia to bounce back, and just I don't see these LSU things getting better. Is my opinion.
Yeah, very well said there. And we won't talk about Oklahoma on the show, but I think you mentioning LSU and their lack of running game, similar problem Oklahoma had that we saw this last week against Texas in a game that, with Mateer back, they were poised to really show that they, could compete at the top of the SEC. But you look at that lack of a running game there and you say, yeah, in the SEC, again, when you've got 10 teams in the top 19 of college football, again, according to Sidelines rankings here, you got to be a complete team. You've got to be good on both sides of the ball, or else you could be in trouble and end up with a bunch of losses. And so I was looking at the season win stuff today too. Nothing's really settled there yet, but your LSU are not looking good, them starting off 5-1, but I haven't looked at their exact schedule, but depending on how the schedule plays out, it might get a little real dicey for them because it doesn't get easier. That's for sure. PM Eastern, UNLV at Boise State. Boise, a 10.5 point favorite. Sideline says they win by an average of about 7. We're going to grab all 10.5 points, A grade here on the Red Rebels. The biggest weak spot for them, of course, is the defense. And that's really where Sideline thinks that Boise is going to be able to win this game, because otherwise, these are two very good group of 5 teams, two good offenses, and Boise State's a good defense again for group of 5 standards. His defense, not that strong. Unfortunately, again, the model doesn't necessarily think they've got a great chance to win, but thinks they do have a great chance of at least losing by single digits and maybe pull an upset. You never really know. That Boise State home turf hasn't been maybe quite as, fear inspiring as maybe it was a decade ago. Cousin Jared getting 10.5 here. I'm a little surprised, kind of like that last. I'm a little surprised this is at 9.5. I kind of figured that's where they'd put it, and I'd say, yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe you should take it, but I don't really want to. But getting the win on 10 here, just too good to pass up.
Yep. I think what we've seen from UNLV so far this season is they just make things happen. And I mean that in both a positive and a negative way, but they make things happen. And so I think if they get down late, if they're down late by, 17 points, I can see them getting a turnover and, punching one in to get the backdoor cover. They could also just score enough points where your Boise State's never going to get outside this number. It could be a situation where it never feels like UNLV is going to win, but Boise just can't ever get that stop to go up by, 12, 13, 14 points. I think this UNLV offense is just too good. And a Boise State defense that, while still good, maybe not as good as the standard that they've kind of built for themselves. I'll still say nobody can draw up an offensive game plan like Dan Mullen can. All of his issues at Florida were related to recruiting and Florida's fans' perception of themselves. Actually, I was at the A&M game last night, and as I was walking out, some really mad Florida fan walked past me and was basically like, I'm tired of this BS. Obviously, I didn't say BS, but I'm tired of this BS, same terrible play calling. And I was thinking to myself, you know what? I bet they would love to have Dan Mullen back, even if he couldn't recruit, but he could still call a game. So anyway, Mullen's a really good play caller. I think UNLV's offense does enough to keep this in the number.
At night, 8 p.m. Eastern, Utah and BYU somehow. It still seems weird to me, but somehow what could be a battle for who can get second place behind Tech in the Big 12 here as BYU continues to look good. Utah, of course, that one blemish to Tech when their quarterback was, Devin Napier was injured, questionable, whatever his status was that week was not 100%. We're going to take BYU plus 130 in A grade play. BYU just gets stuff done. I mean, you saw them against Arizona in a game that they had no business winning, taking it to double overtime and getting it done. And I'm like, you know what? That's a team I want to back because they're good. They're good, and yet they just figure it out. And so we're going to take them here. Model says they win 53% of the time. Biggest thing here being at home. Big rivalry, real nasty rivalry here. A game that I hope they go, blue jerseys, red jerseys, because I just love when they do things like that. I don't know if they will. But of note, and not overly relevant, I don't think, but the pace, neither one of these teams is going to play with a lot of tempo. But otherwise, just two evenly matched, very solid teams. I mean, this is just a heavyweight fight here, in my opinion. Because Jared, what's yours?
The exact same thing. I don't like to, just throw out words, but this is one of those rivalries where throw the records out, forget how you feel about either team. It's going to be, kind of a battle for 4 quarters. And so in my mind, this is, I know it says, Sideline thinks BYU wins 53% of the time. This is, in my mind, a genuine toss-up. So to me, this is just our favorite thing. 50-50 game. Who knows? Give me, plus odds with BYU. And I guess I don't think there's a world where this could get to 3, but I would rather have the money line.
Just a reminder for viewers, of course, here, model says 53% of the time for BYU. However, the precision of any model predicting a game is never that precise.
Right.
This is well within the margin of error to say this is really a 50-50 game. So I think you're spot on with saying that the model is just giving you what it thinks is the most precise answer possible, easily plus or minus a few percentage points to the truth without a sweat at all. So I completely agree. 50-50 game plus odds, with the home team, no reason not to pass it up. But so plus 130 on the Cougs. Because Jared, we unveiled the new segment here. You sure about that? A couple weeks ago, 1-0 so far. What was Cincinnati over Iowa State when Cincinnati was favored? And the model said they should be favored by a little bit more. And I said, you know what? I think let's lay it. And I posed a question to myself because I said, I know there were a lot of people out there not buying into that Cincinnati might be as good or better than Iowa State. It seems to be proven true now, not just based off of that game, but based off of last week's result. We have another one of those, Georgia Tech at Duke. Duke -3. We're going to lay the 3 points because Duke wins by an average of 5.3. And this is where we say, you sure about that? Georgia Tech's the team that's getting a lot of hype and a lot of praise and been in the rankings now for quite some time.
Yeah.
But Sideline says Duke not only at home should be favored, but as the better team, it should be favored by more than a field goal. We're going to lay the 3 as a B grade. Tell us more.
Okay, Georgia Tech, the win over Clemson. Clearly, we know we have much bit more data on Clemson now, which I think is something that Sideline is incorporating here. And
also, to be fair, the model even had Georgia Tech in that game as an A grade.
Yeah. Good point. Georgia Tech should have lost to Wake Forest if not for some strange calls there at the end of the game and offsides. Wake Forest still just a 2-point conversion away from beating Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech also the most one-dimensional offense from the perspective of it's Haynes King. Go look at some of his box scores from this year and see how combined how many times he has run the ball and thrown the ball. In one of the games, it was either the Clemson game or the game right after that for Georgia Tech, he had like 24 carries. That is ridiculous. Do you know what percentage of running backs in college football don't even get 24 carries in a game in today's age? And he got 24 carries in a game. It's just, and this isn't like, I mean, I'm sure some of them were like sacks and whatnot, but like this is a lot of design runs for your quarterback. If Duke can find a way, and I think Manny Diaz can, if they can find a way to just slow Haynes King down just a little bit, that is a huge advantage for Duke. And also, this Duke offense is good. It took them a little bit longer to get going than maybe I thought it would, but this Duke offense has looked really good. I think if they had not had the flurry of turnovers against Illinois at home earlier this year, and I said this when we backed Duke against Cal a couple of weeks ago, I think a lot of the perception of Duke was they got blown out by Illinois, but it was like that was cluster luck with turnovers. Is cluster luck the right term? Like, is that a thing kind of?
Anyway. It works.
Okay,
it works.
Sure.
There's illusions there that work.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. They had 3 turnovers all in a row that just made that game look a lot, a much bigger gap between those two teams than what it actually was. So I like Duke. This is one of those things that just people are going to look at this and be like, Georgia Tech beat Clemson. They have a really good record. They're ranked in the top 15. I'm getting 3 points, sure. And I think there's more to it than that, friends. There's more to it than that.
Darian Mensah, number 6 rated quarterback according to the Sideline, and so so that offense is really good. Because we're 4 games into the show, and we've already mentioned multiple teams here, multiple coaches who I think are potential fits at Penn State. So I don't know. I feel like that'll be the Easter egg of the show. How many different coaches can we mention who might end up at the Penn State job? Because I know Manny Diaz is one of them that's being rumored.
Yeah.
Folks, we always like to talk about games the model has opinions on, the AA games. A grade on the side, A grade on the total. And we're going to start with one that definitely falls into the category if you don't got to watch them to make the money. So we'll have a whole segment on those later. But my goodness, Kent State at Toledo. Kent State, congrats on that win over UMass. UMass, whew.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say about that. They've fallen so far into the basement. I said on Discord earlier, so they didn't fall just to the basement. They fell through the basement after that. Good job, Kent State, riding high after that win. We're going to play a Toledo team that might be a little bit pissed off here after their performance last week at home. Toledo's had some struggles here, sometimes as favorites, sometimes on the road, sometimes as double-digit favorites, getting outright beaten. But they've also had some times where they've kicked the crap out of some teams, and they show you just how good they are. Hopefully we can get the ladder here against Kent State, and that's what I think will happen. This isn't one of those scary Toledo sometimes just messes around, plays with their food too long kind of things, because when you're playing against Kent State, it doesn't really matter if you play with your feet. You probably still win by 30, right? We're going to lay the 25 with Toledo. Cousin Jared, tell us more.
Can't believe I'm saying this. Well, big letdown spot for Kent State after a win last week. Ironically, I do like it even more because Toledo lost after leading a majority of that game. Go look it up. I'm pretty sure there was, I was going to say Mark Sanchez, whatever's going on there, but the butt fumble. I believe there was a butt interception in that Toledo game this past weekend. I'm not sure if I would just go type in Google search like butt interception, but maybe like add Toledo a couple of disclaimers on there. But yeah, I believe there was a butt interception in that game. Anyway, yeah, big letdown spot for Kent State after getting a win. So I love laying it with Toledo here.
We will talk about the total on this one in the after show. Sticking in the MAC for our AA games, we've got a couple other AA games that we'll get to as well in the after show, but this one here at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, Akron at Ball State. We're going to lay minus 105, basically a pick 'em here. So I think this is Akron wins 57% of the time. Ball State, not the worst team in the country. Akron, not the worst team in the country. I do think Sideline might have thought both these teams were the worst team in the country at one point this season. It's been a little bit of a shuffle, though. I think UMass might have a firm grip on that at this point. I don't see how they're going to lose that grip. But Akron climbing out of the basement, even out of maybe the bottom 10 potentially here. For MAC standards, that means they might actually be able to get a road win because Ball State not very good themselves. And Jared, what do you know about these two teams that makes you think that Akron can go out there and get a road win?
Akron has, I believe, coming into the season, Sideline had Akron as the worst team in college football, below Kent State, below UMass, below everybody else. I mean, I think we need to give some respect to Akron for them coming up from the very bottom of Sideline.
From the literal bottom.
Yes, and now they are here all the way to number 126. So I think, as sad as this is to say, I think Akron is on the way up for them. And I don't know, I should really know the coach's name there, but the guy who was the head coach at Mississippi State, offensive coordinator at Penn State before, is Moorhead, Joe, whatever. Anyway, he's the coach there. I always say you have to be just a tad bit wary of Sideline's offensive rating for Akron because the players are not good, but he can definitely scheme up some stuff. And I think that his level of scheming offensively is enough to beat this Ball State team, which is one of the few teams that is in that conversation with, Kent State and UMass and some of those teams that are at the literal very bottom of it. So this is, I would also say, similar, but the exact opposite of BYU and Utah in that, I think 55%, let's say, Akron wins. So minus 105, still plenty good odds.
I'm not going to run through Akron's season and list their results, but I do want to point out a couple things and bring this full circle to the previous game. Number one, Akron finished the season strong last year with an overtime win at home against Toledo. And that's kind of what we're saying. Toledo has a long history here of being a double-digit favorite on the road and just not figuring out a way to get it done. This year they played Toledo, beat Akron 54-3 at home, and that's hopefully what we can get again from Toledo there against Kent State at home. They'll take care of business and win big. Right. Let's get back to Akron here. Finished the season strong last year with that Toledo game. Before that, the week before that, they won at Kent State. This year, they started off slow. It took them into their third game to actually finally score some points. They lost 10-0 to Wyoming, and they got destroyed by Nebraska. Of course, Nebraska means nothing because
in Wyoming, like there's just, I know that game was at Akron, but like Wyoming causes weird things to happen.
They after that they barely lost to UAB. Not that that's necessarily a good showing, but only losing by 3 on the road. They took care of business against Duquesne. They got felt by Toledo, nothing to be ashamed of there. They beat Central Michigan at home a couple weeks ago. They weren't able to get the cover against Miami of Ohio this last week, but they only lost by 13, and they were able to keep it low scoring. Miami of Ohio, just a much better team than Ball State, one of the better teams in the MAC. And so, I mean, if you can at home hang in there with Miami of Ohio, it reeks of what they did last year when they hung in there and beat Toledo. Right. And when you see that sort of, game play out, you say, yeah, they are able to they won at Kent State last year. They beat Central Michigan already this year. It's like, this is all kind of lining up to me as this seems very reasonable to think they can go on the road and get the win here. I'm surprised they aren't more like minus 140, minus 150, because I think they're the better team by a decent bit. Them being minus 105 implies that the market only thinks they're barely better. And I'm just not sure that's the case. I think this Ball State team towards the bottom of the MAC there going to have a hard time winning even at home against a bad Akron team. And in our last AA game, we'll actually get to some real good football here. Texas Tech and Arizona State, number 4 in the country, according to Sideline for Tech. Preseason, the model loved them, and it's looking really smart for saying that early on. Arizona State model wasn't quite as high on maybe as everybody else. Ian Model looking really smart for that. Both the 2 participants in the Big 12 championship game last year, Arizona State and Iowa State. Model wasn't very high on either one of them, and so far looking right. Arizona State has struggled. Sam Levitt looks like he will probably be back, and this game's at home, but folks, Tech is just really, really good. So this is an average of 18.5. Folks, Barry Morton is questionable day to day. Their backup is just as good. And that was one of the things, Jared, you were talking about at the start of the season, is they're going to need their backup quarterback. It doesn't matter which guy's out there. Either one of those guys is fantastic. And that Tech defense, number 5 in the country, according to Sideline, Tech is just loaded. All that money they've poured into that program has really paid off there in Lubbock. Cousin Jared, usually we'd say here, hey, can we get 9.5? But this is one of those cases where I think maybe the key number you should be more worried about is more like 14, because I really think this should get out with the 2 to 3 touchdown range more than the 1 touchdown range. What's your take?
Yep, I definitely agree with that. This is the game this week that is in contention for you're worried about the wrong number. You should be worried about, 13 and a half, 14 and a half, as opposed to the 10 and a half. I mean, that's, like you said, that is, I believe that we have Levitt questionable right now. And so that's with Levitt questionable. There's plenty, even if he ends up playing, still a good play. If he doesn't play, even better play. I just think that there's lots of value here. Don't be distracted by the hook on the number. Tech is really, really good. And more so than some of the other teams, not one to really mess around. They tend to get up and take care of business early, which is, I think, something Sideline has done a good job of picking up on. They haven't messed around so far this year.
Yeah, and they've been really good to us. They remind me a lot of Indiana last year. The only difference, of course, is Indiana had to play, a team like Ohio State in the regular season and kind of get shown that they weren't quite there yet last year. Tech doesn't really have that being in the Big 12, but they look really good. Their first real test might not come until the playoff, considering the Big 12 good, but not a lot of great teams in there. Cousin Jared, I am not certain about this. I don't know exactly how the numbers play out. I don't know what the market does. I'm not, a soothsayer by any stretch of the imagination. I think you lay the 10.5 now. No reason not to. I wonder if Levitt is announced he's going to play. I'm wondering if this drops to 9.5 and you say, I'll play more on it.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if he's announced that he doesn't play, if this number goes up to something like 13.5 or something like that.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't play, the model would say it should be 20.
Yeah. I was going to say, you still play more. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like it doesn't really matter how you're playing it, right? So I just think this Tech team has been a gravy train for us, and there's no reason to stop now. Even though it's on the road, they've shown that they can go on the road and destroy teams this year, and so I don't see any reason why this changes. Folks, to our Run, Don't Walk segment, 3 games here where we really love the number. We want to make sure we get the best of it. First off, Washington, +6 in A grade at Michigan. Sideline says Michigan wins by an average of 3 points. 2 teams ranked in the lower E's according to the model. Not a lot of pace in this one either. Could be a low-scoring, grinded-out affair. Because enjoyed my one concern about this one, body clock game, Washington playing at 9 a.m. local time. But we saw last week even a couple games where the body clock didn't really matter. The West Coast teams were able to take care of business in that early slot. I believe UCLA was one of them. That traveled, halfway across the country, 2/3 of the way across the country in that early slot. So it can be done, as difficult as it might be. And we don't even need Washington to get the win. We just need them to hang in there. Michigan did not look very good last week. And I think we talked about that one last week, that game, and said, hey, this is kind of a chance for if Michigan's going to do something. Here it is, their time to shine, go out on the road and get a good win. And I think you never know, right? A team's never as bad as they look at their worst. And so they might bounce back and look great here at home. But what we saw from Michigan last week makes you wonder if they're good enough to beat a team like Washington by a touchdown or more. Because Washington team not quite as good as they were a couple years ago, but definitely bounced back from last year and looks pretty strong again, especially on offense. What do you think?
I just think that I believe it's Williams, the quarterback for Washington, can do enough offensively to keep Washington in this game. He's a mobile quarterback. He can move around. He can make plays out of structure, which I think is what you need when you're playing Michigan at home. Maybe more than anything else, though. And some people pointed this out at the time. The Michigan offense seemed to be at its best when Biff Poggi was the interim coach and when Sharon Moore wasn't on the sidelines. And I'm not necessarily saying there's credibility to that, but what I am saying is that Sharon Moore just has this way that he wants to play offense, and it's just not pretty. It is not prone to putting up a lot of points. It's not prone to allowing teams to pull away. I mean, even against Nebraska, when they averaged 9 yards per carry, they got up by 10 in that game, but they never really ran away with it. And so the combination of Williams, a quarterback for Washington, and this Michigan offense that I just don't think is built to really pull away from people, I will gladly take 6 points in that situation.
Backdoor potential here
Oh
with a
yeah.
team that's got an offense to do it
Hmm.
versus that Nebraska game where, we said at the time, I think that if either team got up by double digits, it was going to be real difficult because that was exactly the game they wanted to play, just grind it out. And they didn't have the offensive firepower to come back. Whereas this one, yeah, Michigan wants to get up double digits and just, melt it away. But Washington's got the offense to score a touchdown there and get us the
Right.
cover in
Right.
the event it happens. But I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure it ever gets there because it might just be just such a slugfest back and forth. It probably stays about a one-score game for most of the game, you would think, because it's not like Michigan's shown a lot to make us think that they could do more than that. And so run, don't walk, because you're thinking this doesn't ever get to 7 and you want to get to
No.
6
Yep.
before it
Yep.
drops into no man's land between 4 and 6.
Yep. I agree.
All right, another one here, SMU and Clemson. We're going to take the 10 points with SMU. A grade play sideline says Clemson should be favored, but more like by 4.5, 5, and not by 10. Pleasure, this one confuses me. I thought we knew that Clemson was just okay. How are they a 10-point favorite? I know SMU's been disappointing, and sideline has them ranked number 38. That's very disappointing. I mean, they were a top 10, top 15-ish team last year based off of what they did on the field. They were wasn't just about to win them. They were a really good team last year. This year they've taken a huge step back, and it's like, but also Clemson's not that good either. This line
Right.
confuses me. Can you make any sense of it for me? Because I don't get it.
Well, somehow this is, for me, only the second most confusing line of the week. And so we'll be talking about the other one a little bit later here in the show. Yeah, I'm like you. I don't understand it. I feel like we have seen this before, literally last year in the ACC championship game, close game throughout. We haven't seen anything from Clemson that makes me think they're going to be able to run away in this game. Yes, SMU is definitely a step down from what they were, but again, not a team that is necessarily going to get blown out. In my opinion, Rhett Lashley has kind of set a floor on that program where it's going to be really difficult to kind of run them out of the building. So yeah, I agree. This doesn't make any sense. I don't know what to say. This is too many points. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't get it. Last year in that ACC championship game, the game was in SMU, of course, but SMU had a couple of turnovers right off the bat and dropped down 14-0 and came back and outgained Clemson, even for the game, outgained them by 130 yards. And that's kind of what we saw last year, that SMU played better and should have won that game. It was at home, of course. What's drastically different about both these teams, other than both of them have taken a step back? Yeah, you flipped a location, but that doesn't mean Clemson now wins by 10, right? I don't know.
I mean, and would anybody be surprised if SMU outgains by Clemson by 100 yards in this one? No, no,
Right.
I would
Right.
not be
Agreed. Yeah.
surprised.
Yeah, this feels like a dabble on the money line to me as well, just because you're going to get some really good plus odds, and I don't know what's going. I think it's going to be a close game, and then who knows? You have something like plus 300 or something crazy.
Yeah,
Probably,
you know what
why
this
not? Right?
reminds me of? This reminds me of every Texas and Kansas State game from like 2010 to 2015 or 16, whatever year it was, when they just hung a line, and every year you're like, just take the points with Kansas State, dabble some on the money line. That's the vibes this one gives me.
Very well. So yeah, plus 275 right now. So yeah, I don't see
Wow.
why you wouldn't. I mean, anything can happen in this game, and it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I'm already invested considering I have the SMU to win the ACC season long bet. So I may sit out the money line on this one. I've already got enough there.
And shockingly, that's still alive after Florida State has come back to earth.
Yeah.
After everyone realized what I said all along was like, let's pump the brakes on FSU being a top 10 team, everybody. It's like Miami and everybody else for the ACC. So a real wide open race.
Yep.
For that. And Duke and all, Georgia Tech, all sorts of options in that one. So you're still alive somehow for that one. UTSA at North Texas, our last run. Don't walk North Texas minus 5.5. Disappointing spot for North Texas after last week playing in the game against South Florida. Couldn't get it done for us there. We took them on the money line in a game that had 8 turnovers.
Yeah.
North Texas had 5 of them in a game that just anything could have happened in that game with the way those turnovers, some of those big plays. I mean, that just was a game completely drunk, almost 100 points. Did it get to 100 points?
No, it got just below. I think it got to 98 or something like that.
Yeah, just below 100 points. Different animal here in UTSA. Good, not great. Not quite as good as South Florida. Something says North Texas wins by an average of 11.3. I'm confused why this one isn't more than 7, Cousin Jared.
I think people are wanting to believe that UTSA has, well, number one, I think most people actually aren't looking at how UTSA has played this season. But if they are, they're looking at last week when they beat Rice like 61-7 or something like that and thinking that that means something. And I mean, of course, anytime that you win a conference game 61-7, that is very good. But you need to look at the entire picture of UTSA, and they have been pretty disappointing so far this season. North Texas is the exact opposite of that. You look at the entirety of the season, not the crazy game that had all of the turnovers. North Texas has done nothing but take care of business. And this is one where I want to get this now because the points don't matter. But with a projected total like this, the points probably won't matter. But in the scenario where they actually do, I would rather have 5.5 than 6, 6.5, or 7, or 7.5, of course. So I would say take the macro view of this one when you're making this play. Don't look at these two teams, just what they did last week.
I love betting a team on the bounce back. Again, we always talk about you're never as bad as you look at your worst. You're never as good as you look at your best. You have a game of 5 turnovers and a track meet like that, and just throw it out the window. No big deal. Move on to next week. I think people are looking at North Texas, their history being more mediocre here, especially the last several years, and UTSA being a stronger team in that conference over the last several years. But I just don't think this UTSA team is as good as any of the teams they've had in the last 2-3 years.
Right. Yeah.
When they've been a competitor in their whatever various conferences they've been in over the last few years, they've moved around.
Yep.
I love laying 5.5 here. One of my favorite plays of the week. A great according to the model. Folks, you don't got to watch or make the monies. Reminder, it's fun to watch football games, but you're going to win the same amount, whether you watch it or don't. And this is one you might not want to watch. Maryland at UCLA. Why don't you want to watch Maryland at UCLA? UCLA is good now. I don't know why. Why are we hating on Maryland and UCLA?
I mean, it's highly possible that this was just a typo and that it doesn't necessarily belong here. Because I'm like you, it's not a bad game. Is this on a Friday night? They play at 7:00 on a Friday night, or is this a Saturday game? Saturday. Wow. Can't believe they're playing. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking. Yeah, you need to keep an eye on this one. This could be sneakily entertaining. Am I a little bit concerned with how good UCLA has looked? Yes. Mm-hmm. When everybody talks about, the dead cat bounce and they come out and play well for a new coach and all of that good stuff, a lot of that is overdone. But the reason that there's that perception and kind of that saying and that belief is because every once in a while it's really true. And UCLA, I think, is an excellent point of that. And so I don't want to say throw away that Sideline says they win 73% of the time. But the margin for error in this one, in my opinion, is much higher than maybe any other game on the slate. Because I think this UCLA team that you're looking at now is so completely different from the UCLA team from 3 weeks ago. But with that just being said, Maryland's been really good this season. They have been exceptionally solid. And I think this is going to be a wonderful test of what is the right amount to overreact, underreact, overreact, whatever, because the bookmakers are, in my opinion, way overreacting here because clearly Penn State had issues. Nobody is saying that Michigan State is a perfect team. Michigan State has some issues. Maryland is, for this season, maybe the most put together team that UCLA has played in the past, 3 weeks. And so I feel like this is way too much of an overreaction here, hopping on to UCLA and making them a favorite. I know it's across the country, but it's not a bad body clock time for Maryland. I don't know. Just seems like this is too much, in my opinion.
Did a great job getting the cover for us a few weeks ago. I believe it was against Washington. And again, they should have won outright. Couldn't get it done. Did a great job getting the cover for us last week against Nebraska in a game where we kind of said the same thing. They just got to hang in there. A little bit of a different spot here, but Nebraska and Washington, I would still say are better teams than UCLA because I want to make sure we react appropriately here. And UCLA definitely better than what they looked like at the start of the season, but they're still a flawed football team. They still have issues. They still aren't that good. And Nebraska is a very solid football team. Washington, very solid football team. And they're still better than UCLA. And so this is a situation where Maryland, wasn't able to get the job done winning, but they did cover for us. They did better than the market expected. And that's the same thing here, because here you're not really looking to cover at a situation with a line like this. But better than the market expected would mean they would need to win.
Right.
So model thinks they can do that against us 73% of the time. I'm like you, it seems a little bit high. But remember, the model's not built to overreact, because if we would have overreacted, we would have said Florida State was an amazing team. We would have said blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Let's go on and on, right?
Yeah.
And we've said we said all season, we said, hey, Penn State, maybe not that good. Iowa State, maybe not that good, right? And so we got to just be patient here and just let it all play out. And again, I think you make a great point. If Penn State had come back this week and had beaten Northwestern by 50 points, oh my gosh, UCLA, wow, great job on that victory. But it's like, you saw that Penn State, that just, like you said, they had whatever issues that they were there.
Yep.
And UCLA took advantage of them, and that was great for them. And again, Nico starts to looking really good. It's going to be a whole lot tougher test against a really good Maryland defense.
Yep.
And so, like I said, all the way across the country, but not at a bad time. Typo on the segment, not a bad game to watch. This next one, though, is a Big Ten game that will be Penn State at Iowa. Backup quarterback for Penn State now. Maybe the backup quarterback for Iowa. We're unsure if Gronowski will get to go. Penn State, with Aller out, now drops to number 31 in the rankings. With him in there, still hangs around number 20, mid 20, something like that. So drops several spots without him. But Sideline thinks Iowa's the better team, and at home wins by an average of 5.4. This is crazy because, Jared, coming into the start of the season, I'm pretty sure on our season bets preview, we said that Iowa might be able to throw everything they have at Penn State, hang in there, but it'd be a really tough spot. And now you're looking at them; they're favored by 3, and we think they should be favored by more. I mean, how the turntables have turned? Am I right, cousin Jim?
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. So we talked about UCLA making a coaching change, and clearly it being for the best. For the long-term health of the program, sure, maybe letting James Franklin go was the best thing to do. I don't think there is a world where you can convince me that letting him go in the middle of the season is the best thing for this season for Penn State. So
especially this week. I mean, the distractions, the morale.
Yep, definitely. Even some of the stuff you're seeing coming from the players, it's not, anger, vitriol or anything like that. The players more than ever kind of understand that it's a business, but very disappointed. Some of the players, I think, taking it pretty hard, in their minds, maybe if they had made 1 or 2 more plays over the course of a few seasons at this point, he may have had more goodwill built up if they had won even one of those big games.
They were a 2-point conversion away from beating Oregon.
Exactly. 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago.
Being the number 1 team in the country at that point.
James Franklin, the best example maybe ever of life coming at you fast.
Oh my gosh.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, I saw it, I can't take credit for it, but I saw it. Like, imagine telling a Penn State fan during, the fourth quarter of the Oregon game that James Franklin wasn't going to be their head coach in 2.5 weeks. I mean, just a crazy thing to kind of keep in mind. Anyway, letting Franklin go is not going to help them this season. And I think if you were really trying to be optimistic, you could say, okay, well, Aller wasn't the best fit for this offense. Maybe they find lightning in the bottle with a backup quarterback here who's a better fit for the offense. And, maybe the offense takes a little bit of a step forward. I would remind you that, Bo Pribula transferred to Missouri. Penn State was in a bad situation looking for a backup quarterback because it was late in the recruiting cycle. And, nobody wanted a lot of the good players didn't want to transfer into Penn State because, of course, Aller was going to be the starter. And so they just weren't in a good situation for the quarterback market. I don't think this backup quarterback situation is going to be very good for them. And, of course, Iowa's going to Iowa. Like, if there is one team that can take advantage of you when you are down a man, down a head coach, and maybe a little down on morale, it'll be Iowa, because they'll just Iowa things up. And, they'll be ahead 9-0, and you felt like you never had a chance to get into the game.
Yeah, I would have said maybe 11 because let's throw a safety in there.
Sure. Yeah.
But a couple of things, and you talk about morale. I think it's a great point because to me the vibe is a lot of, kind of like almost like you were saying, players thinking, "Gosh, if I had done something better, our coach would still be," kind of taking it on them. And you hear professional athletes talk about that all the time, as well when their coach gets fired. Hey, it wasn't his fault. We didn't make the plays,
right?
Things like that, and that's kind of what it felt like. They're not, it's not like UCLA, 0-4, disaster start, but like, oh, hey, we could turn it around. And they were never expecting anything anyway. UCLA wasn't expecting to go to the Rose Bowl, right?
Right.
You had legit national title hopes. So you said just a couple weeks ago in that Oregon game, the way that ends and everything, even after that, they're still a lock for the playoff after that. We even said at the time, right? The playoff was built for them. They don't have to win that game. Who cares?
Yeah.
2 games later, you have this, and it's like, and now your quarterback's down. It's like, man, I'm not a big morale guy because these guys go out there every week and give their best. I know that. But I mean, this is one of those rare situations where the morale just is the cherry on top for me. And then the last point I would make on this, Penn State's offense has struggled for sure. We talked about Aller, maybe not the best fit for that system. And he's out now, and that's why their offense is down to number 36. But that defense, number 25, coming into the season, that was for sure a top 5 defense. I mean, it's just everything is done wrong. It seems like for Penn State. It's
definitely.
Oof. One more here, also at night, 7:45 p.m. Eastern, Missouri at Auburn. Because, Jared, you've been very harsh on Auburn's offense. I think rightfully so. Missouri now, coming off of that Alabama game, couldn't quite get it done there. A couple of untimely interceptions late there. Cost them that one. But the sideline says they still win this 2 out of 3 times. We're getting plus odds on Missouri. I know that this is a road game. Road games are tough to win, especially in the SEC. But I don't know. I feel like it's been the theme all season when we're talking about that. Auburn, got that win over Baylor. And that was part of my point in saying that, was talking about the whole time bringing that up, is that they barely won that game on the road. And they're one of the weaker teams in the SEC. That kind of, again, shows you, for me as a Baylor fan, how far away we are from where we want to be. Mm-hmm. Because this Auburn team is just not that good and bottom half of the SEC. And it feels like it's just proven right every week after week that they're just a ho-hum team, which is not bad. It's just not good for the SEC, right?
Yep.
And that's the thing. If they were in any other conference, they're able to go beat the teams like Baylor. And they're able to go 8-4, 9-3, maybe even 10-2 if the schedule breaks right. But you're in the SEC week after week after week. You're playing these teams that are just a lot better than you. And even though this one's at home, I just think Missouri's a lot better than them. I don't know. Missouri had a higher than 50% post-game win expectancy against Alabama. According to the metrics, played the better game, and obviously was at home, but Alabama's a lot better than Auburn. So I don't know. I'm shocked reading plus odds on this one. What's your take?
This is the line that makes the least sense to me. We talked about SMU. For me, it's this game. I mean, do the books not have eyes? I don't understand.
Books do not have eyes.
Well, I don't know. I'm pretty sure that my daughter thinks that some of the books with people on them, I think she does think that the eyes are watching her as she moves around. But anyway, Auburn's offense has just been horrific. And I actually thought about this as I was watching it last night. At one point, Jackson Arnold came over to the sideline and was throwing his helmet down on the ground, clearly frustrated. If I were Hugh Freeze in that situation, I maybe would have thought about putting in my backup quarterback, because if there is one position where you really have to try to hold it together, unless you're like Tom Brady or something, or Baker Mayfield, like it's the quarterback position. And I think clearly at that point the offense had, especially after the fumble, had done absolutely nothing. Arnold looked like he had lost all of his composure. That's on top of multiple weeks of Auburn's offense being so bad. And to your point, Missouri, in my mind, acquitted themselves well in that game. I know that, they lost that game at home, but I left that game thinking Missouri is what I thought they were, which is a very good football team. And I do not believe that Auburn is a very good football team, especially offensively. So I know this is on the road. I know it's, kind of after a potential body blow spot for Missouri, but same for Auburn. They just played Georgia. So I don't know what to say on this one. I don't think these two teams are anywhere near equal, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You can see their sideline is Missouri number 7, the highest rated of the SEC teams. Now, granted, again, 7 through 15 are all like half a point or less apart from each other. So it's a big jumble mess there. That is not to say that the sidelines, you're saying, oh, Missouri is by far the best team in the SEC. It's just saying there's a bunch of good teams in the SEC. Missouri is up there. Right now, they're the highest rated of the teams. Next week, it'll be someone else. The next week, it'll be someone else, because there's so many of them all right there. But the important point is that Auburn isn't in that tier of teams. And they are a substantial step down. Again, good enough to beat teams like the Baylors in a different conference, different story. But in the SEC, it seems like it's one of those. Some of these good SEC teams are going to miss bowl games.
Yep.
And Auburn feels like that could be that team, one of those teams.
Yep. Another
only so many wins.
Yep. Another job that could be open after the season is Auburn. And the reason you're not going to watch this one is because, number one, I think Missouri could, potentially end up running away with this game, but also likely to be very little offense. This game could be more similar to the Iowa Penn State game than we want to admit.
Yeah, especially when you look at the screen, the pace metrics for both these teams. Neither team playing in any hurry whatsoever. Not going to be really fun football to watch, probably.
No.
After dark, because Jared, another week with only 2 games in the late night slate for Saturday night. So we're going to pull a Friday game. Friday after dark, 9 p.m., San Jose State at Utah State. We're going to lay the 4 with Utah State as an A-grade play. Sideline says Utah State wins by an average of 9. Folks, talk about wanting to watch it. This one might be fun. Look at those pace metrics there. There's going to be a lot of possessions, a lot of points. We like Utah State to get it done here, only having to lay 4. Jared, I hadn't really thought about it until you made the comment. Maybe we should have that as a segment. The you're worried about the wrong number. Again, this is one of those 3-4. Maybe you should be worried about 6-7. Because sideline says Utah State might win this by closer to 10. Utah State's offense, the difference maker in this one, according to the model. What's the difference maker in your eyes?
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest reasons I like this is we backed Wyoming against San Jose State last week. That did not look good early, looked good late, almost as if the altitude might have had an impact on San Jose State there. San Jose State going on the road to altitude for the 2 weeks in a row. I think that is just really tough. Utah State, for sure, they didn't look great playing out at Hawaii this past week. But I like being able to back the home team coming off a loss as opposed to the road team here, where back-to-back weeks in altitude. If there is a situation where the altitude is going to show up, my goodness, this could be it. Like you alluded to, those pace metrics. There could be some San Jose State players really struggling out there in the third and fourth quarter of this one.
I also like the fact that the model had a B grade on Hawaii on the updated model run that we did on Friday, and Hawaii won that. And so it's not like the model's just got some Utah State bias and it's just picking them every week, right? It faded them last week and said, they're not good value going to the island. And this week it says they're good value. So it's like, yeah, sure. I think it's seeing them pretty well. It seems like it's zigging and zagging the right way. So we're lay the 4 there. Friday night, late night spot. Back to Saturday here, the only 2 late games, 9:45 p.m. Eastern, Nevada at New Mexico. Because, Jared, we've loved this New Mexico team just getting it done. I think we got 16.5 against Boise State, and they lost by 16.
We did.
Good teams win, great teams cover, right? New Mexico get it done for us. We're gonna lay 10 with them, see if they can get it done again. Model says they win by an average of 15.5. And, folks, this one is a little bit different. We've taken New Mexico in some of these dog situations where we're just asking them to hang on, and this is where asking them to assert their dominance a little bit like they did against New Mexico State. They started slow and were able to run away at the end. And so the same thing here, even if they start slow, they are able to still run away because Nevada and New Mexico State, neither one of them very good. New Mexico in a different class here as one of the better teams in the Mountain West. Cousin Jared, it worked last week. Let's keep riding the Lobos until they let us down.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I really like Coach Eck and everything he's doing at New Mexico. But for me, this is also partially about Nevada, who outside of, okay, well, they beat Sacramento State. Playing FBS teams, they had a 1 point loss to Middle Tennessee, but I mean, it's Middle Tennessee, and they lost by 15 to Western Kentucky. But man, they got blown out by San Diego State as well. I just think as far as the classifications of the Mountain West, like Nevada's really near the bottom. And I think they can hang in there with those other Mountain West teams that are at the bottom. But even like obviously the top, but the middle tier teams, I don't even think Nevada can hang in there with the middle tier teams like New Mexico is. I just like everything that I've seen from New Mexico so far this season. Them being at home against the Nevada team, I have no faith in. That just got trucked by San Diego State. Yeah, I'll lay the 10 points.
Yeah, I was gonna say, to me, part of this is about Nevada and the fact that they've had some really rough showings.
Yep.
And
Yep.
if they have another rough showing here, we've seen this New Mexico team is pretty solid, surprisingly solid. Even though they lost their all everything quarterback Devin Dampier, the new coach coming up from the FCS level, I believe Idaho was
Yep.
where he came from, and he's been a fantastic get for them, all the way up to number 78 according to Sideline. And then we'll wrap it up here with the Florida State Stanford game. Nine says Florida State wins this by an average of 19 and a half. We're going to lay 17 and a half, only a B grade here. We would need to be on the right side of 17 for that A grade. So you're needing to be at least 16 and a half, maybe more. I'm not sure exactly for the best value, but this is one that could get a little bit ugly here. Florida State stubbing their toe here of late, but just a much better team than Stanford. I think Stanford's going to be fine in the long run, but right now I don't think is it. They really don't inspire me on offense or defense. And this is a good spot for Florida State to go out there and take out some of their frustrations on a weaker team. We saw them take out some of their frustrations on a couple of weak teams after the Alabama game. And those teams, obviously not as good as Stanford, but Stanford's just not a great football team. And so this could be one where Florida State to run all over them here and is able to do so and run away. Cousin Jared, tell us more.
Yeah, so I like the angle of, Florida State bad 3 games in a row for them, having an opportunity to come out here and show that like, hey, we're still playing for something here. We could put up a lot of points. Stanford is a team that we can basically have our way with, blow them out. I really like that angle of it too. I also think that Mike Norvell, I think, is adept at coaching with his back to the wall. I don't see Mike Norvell's team being one that's just kind of going to roll over. And I'm really saying this in the context of I don't think this season is just going to go so south for Florida State that it makes it an easy decision to let go of Norvell. I think that he's going to make it difficult. And so the way that you make, the situation difficult for the Florida State administration is you go out and you cover games like this. You just absolutely throttle bad teams, which we have seen Florida State do this season against Kent State and East Texas A&M, whoever else they were playing. When they've played terrible teams, they have really kind of had their way with them and won the game by 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 scores. I don't think they're going to win this one by 8 scores, but hey, we just need them to win this by 3 touchdowns, and that'll be good enough.
Yeah, I think it's well said. I think that this Florida State team, not as bad as they've looked here in some of their struggles, not as good as everyone thought they were after the first game, somewhere in between. I think the market's finally honing in and calibrating to everyone's expectations. Honing in together kind of at the right spot and pricing it fairly well. It's just, this to me is about, I just don't have a lot of faith in Stanford. I just haven't really liked what I've seen from them. This is a game that they want to ugly up, but this feels a lot like when Stanford played against Virginia, and Virginia, they just couldn't stop Virginia.
Yeah.
I think Virginia scored a touchdown like every time they had the ball. And that's kind of what I feel like is going to happen here. Like, I just don't think that, I think Florida State Still plenty to play for after a really disappointing year last year. Still a bowl game in their future. Still better than even a 6-win season in their future. And like you said, we've seen them beat some bad teams, and I think they're going to Virginia them, basically. It's on the road, but I mean, these days it matters a little bit less, I think, than maybe it used to. It's not like Stanford's going to have a big home edge there either. And so a lot of reasons I think that Florida State really can go out there and punish Stanford and cover a big number. Folks, that's all of our show here for the college football portion. We're going to show you a clip here again from Bench Points with our friend Jake, who will be doing the college basketball show here come the new year. They've got some season bets, so stick around for that here. But before we air that again, more free picks on Patreon. Also, if you support us there at the $5 a month level, you can see our Discord chat, a lot of extra picks, a lot of insights, a lot of good conversation, a lot of good stuff there. You can get picks, every pick that we make for $9.99 a month, and you get everything, including all the model output, all sorts of goodies for $19.99 a month. That honor roll membership is what you need, again, to be able to watch our after show here that we are going to discuss more games. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, Cousin Jared. Before we head out, parting words.
I don't know. Every week, I think college football, what more can it deliver? And every week it one-ups itself. I don't know where we go from here, but I have a feeling that the season has a lot more interesting things in store.
That's probably true. All right, so here is that clip from Bench Points. As always, thanks for watching. We'll see y'all next week.
So if you've ever been with us over there with Picture the Professor, you know I have a blast with these future bets in college basketball. And I'm doing pretty well come tournament time. I'm not so hot here with the conference winners before the ball even starts. But first one, the ACC and the top 5 odds: Duke at +150, Louisville at +195, UNC at +650, NC State at +800, and Virginia at +1500. But not sure if you've never dabbled in conference betting, please, dear God, do not pick Duke. Do not put your money on Duke, because you will more than likely lose that, or you'll be sweating it all year and barely make any return. If you just want Duke to win the ACC and you want to bet that, just bet them to win every ACC game. You'll do a lot better.
So smart money to me, again, is like Duke or Louisville. I think brave money here is NC State. Ballsy money is Virginia. For me personally, I'm gonna lay 25, maybe 50 down on NC State, because I just want to see what happens. Like I'm like, pop the popcorn, crack open the beer, watch this all unfold. Maybe the youngins at Duke kind of fold when it comes to pressure or anything like that. But NC State with a Will Wade era, I'm excited to see what happens here.
Yeah, I'm putting my $10 because I'm a little lighter in the pocket than old Sambo there.
Well, I'm an sage 42-year-old. I've got I got gambling money that my wife doesn't know about, and when she watches this podcast, she might get a little upset.
Just
What happens on the bench stays on the bench.
Yeah.
But I'm going Virginia. Your odds on this team are not going to get any better. I think they're going to get smaller and smaller the closer we get, the more that comes out. Odom, great coach, fantastic transfer portal class. ACC schedule breaks their way a little bit too. I think Virginia is where I'm putting my money. I think, one, to be a fun payout. Two, I think they got the squad to do it if things break the right way. UNC at +650. I don't understand that. That to me that's nope. I would not put any money. I wouldn't bet Sam's money on UNC at +650.
I wouldn't bet my money either.
I think it's irresponsible not to put something down for NC State and Virginia.
Yeah, I
At least something.
like that. What is it? Fortune favors the bold. I like that NC State pick a lot. And again, like, I think
Yeah, the Will Wade Wolfpack.
if you have what does Pedro Serrano say? If you have the huevos,
Yeah.
Got no bomb.
then put your money on Virginia.
That they're for the ACC, we're going. Virginia, NC State's the route we're going. But Big 12, once again, Houston is by far the favorite to win it all. BYU at +400, Texas Tech at +425, Kansas +650, and Arizona +875. Well, you got a little bit tighter of a spread and a little more talent there is what the book's trying to tell you. In the Big 12, a little more spread out. I still think this is Houston all day, but if I'm putting my money, I'm either going Texas Tech or Arizona. I don't think Kansas is good enough. I don't like BYU, as we just talked about with the bracket. Of there's more talent, like name recognition on that team than it is the actual team being good. I would probably sprinkle a little bit on both. Texas Tech is much more likely to win, but I think Arizona could absolutely make a run and just run teams to death. If they can figure out any kind of defense, this could be a lot of fun for Arizona this year. Texas Tech is probably where I'd put most of my money when I'm making this bet. So if my $15, I'll spread, probably put 10 on Texas Tech and 5 on Arizona.
So my thoughts on this is like betting the Big 12 feels like a fool's errand if you're not betting on Houston, because I think Houston's the runaway favorite in this one. But look, plus 650 is not enough for me to
Sell your soul.
fix the sleep I lose over betting on anything Kansas. And Texas Tech feels fun because they have a National Player of the Year. Arizona, I feel, is like that Cuevas pick, but I think I'm with you. Texas Tech with a National Player of the Year candidate feels like a dark horse to win that conference, and it's a decent enough payout where it makes it worth betting a little bit of money.
Yeah, no, I'm shocked, and I didn't see Iowa State pop up here because I would have thought they would have been in between BYU and Texas Tech. Is where I would have put Iowa State.
I was about to bring that up, especially after what we just saw in the bracketology. Did not see them mentioned here.
Yeah,
I find interesting.
yeah, that was surprising to me, but if they're really not that big miss,
I'm looking
Well, and
right-
also Texas Tech, and might as well put your money where their money was spent.
I might want to redo that. I want 9-5 for Iowa State with that home court advantage.
What?
925 for Iowa
925
State?
is not okay.
You know what? Yeah, sprinkle $10 more in Iowa State.
Let's redo our Big 12 here.
That's a
I just took the top 5 off of each one. All right, cool. So yeah, I would say that plus 925. That is around Arizona.
Yeah, I'm not Iowa State convinced, and I'm also so heavily Houston convinced that it's not where it's at. Texas Tech is still the dark horse for me.
Yeah, no. Texas Tech is the smarter play. Having Iowa State at not plus almost 1,000 is going to be incredible. And once again, that's a number I don't think is going to get any bigger.
no.
Because Lipsy will be back at full speed.
Yep.
Before conference play even starts, so we don't have to worry about that. The home court they have in Ames is nasty, and I really love the coach. I love the team. That's where I would normally would have picked Arizona. I'm going to go Iowa State, so I'll put of 15. I'm going to split that evenly. That's how much I like. I will put as even as I can. Put 8 there on Texas Tech and 7 on Iowa State.
Can you parlay conference futures?
You can, but not
Well,
inside. the same conference.
here's my parlay so far. I'm gonna go 15 on NC State. No, I'm gonna go 25 on NC State, followed by Texas Tech in the Big 12.
There we go.
And then when we get to the next conference, I might throw one of those in the mix too.
And if you just, honestly, I feel like I know we're going to discuss others in future episodes, but the Big 12 might be one of the most fun conferences to put money on, just because of how competitive it is. I mean, obviously the SEC, but they kind of beat up on each other. But the Big 12, I mean, there's a lot of question marks, which I think that's going to be a theme in all of college basketball, given how many rosters change. Like we change underwear at this point. And so having to adjust to those times, that's what makes put a little cash down more exciting. So it could really change from time to time.
Yeah. And just so we're not talking about the power conferences here, I think the A10 is always fun, always competitive, always has decent teams coming out of. George Washington at plus 270, ECU at plus 270, St. Louis at plus 350, Eaton at plus 700, and Loyola at plus 700. I don't know. I would have picked George Washington, but that is not worth my time at plus 270. I do not want to sweat that bet all year, trying to find ways to watch A10 ball. Not doing that for just plus 270. Dayton is a sneaky one. I like St. Louis. They still have their nickname, Robbie Dude Green. He's still there. Very good player. Like that, which came from Indiana State. I think they could absolutely do it. So if I were to do it, I'd probably still pick Dayton, but it would be like $1 flyer. If I got my account down to $1, I'd be like, yeah, here, sure, why not?
So I'm gonna top off my parlay here, and you guys are gonna want to earmuffs this one. Sir Jean is 106 years old, and she is no longer able to attend Loyola sporting events, and I think this is going to be like do it for Sister Jean year, and I'm gonna ride Loyola all the way through that conference. Plus 700 long shot odds I've got on Texas Tech and NC State. I think I've got a hell of a parlay here. Put $25 to $50 down on that, see what happens. I remember doing this one time with Jake a few years ago where I think I had a 20-game bet, and I came down to Alabama and who was it?
I can't remember.
God, it was Alabama and Georgia, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I was in Alabama, had a lead with 5 minutes left. My thought was like, man, this is going to be a $1,600 payday.
My gosh.
That somebody caught wind of my bet, and
Yep.
it's a 5-minute collapse. So this is what I'm going to ride.
That's crazy.
For the A10, in honor of Sister Jean and all the magic that she's brought to that program, I'm gonna put my money down.
I wonder what kind of NIL check that she gets.
If you're wanting to do Sam's conference winner parlay here, that'll get you a nice plus 37,000 odds. Your $25 bet is going to pay you $9,425.
I'm putting it in right now.
All right,
I'm gonna put it in right now.
Better come with a receipt.
$25. All right. So when I get my $9,000 payday, I'll treat you guys to a Final Four with Purdue and UConn in Indianapolis.
And then when NC
Yeah,
State
I'll take that bet.
trips out of the gate and loses their first 4 ACC games, you're just gonna throw that away.
Nah, Will Wade won't let him. I don't think it'll happen. But you never know. You never know.